Let's talk about Infinite Warfare for a bit. So before I get started on my initial impressions of the game, I want to first make one thing perfectly clear. If you've been a subscriber to my channel for a while, you'll know that I have no sponsors. I don't get flown out by any Call of Duty developer, nor am I paid to say anything. Everything I'm about to state comes from my own perspective as a vicious admirer of Call of Duty. Now with that said, every year the same cycle repeats itself for me. I play the current Call of Duty all the way to the end of its life cycle. Of course, by the later months, I'm ready for a new game, but I continue to enjoy the current one. And right before the beta or the release of the new game, I'm usually T. Martin levels of excited to play it. So I always find myself going into the new game with high expectations. There's never been a bad Call of Duty game in my mind. Yes, it's true all of them have their own issues, but I've never hated a game. I'll get frustrated at times, but I always stick with the game the entire duration of its life cycle. Enter Infinite Warfare. To me, this game is a mix of the last three Call of Duty games. Visually, it resembles Advanced Warfare. Movement-wise, it resembles Black Ops 3. Combat-wise, it resembles Ghosts. Some people may say that this makes it a dull rendition of Call of Duty with nothing new brought to the table, which is more or less true if you want to look at it from that perspective. However, on the other spectrum, you could say that it took the best elements of all three games, polished them up, and turned them into a new game. And that's how I've perceived Infinite Warfare thus far. So let's talk about some positive features they've added. First up, the weapon crafting system. To talk about this, we also have to talk about supply drops and weapon variants. The weapon variants themselves are actually great. They've introduced weapon perks, which in some cases completely alter the weapon, whether that be visually or actually by changing crucial things such as the fire rate. Other variants are just plain useful, such as spawning you in with a random attachment on your weapon. And some of the weapon perks mimic actual perks in the game and increase their effectiveness, such as the weapon with stability. This will reduce your recoil and it stacks with the foregrip attachment. And lastly, some of the weapon perks actually resemble perks from older games, such as Gambler on this weapon. Getting 3 kills will give you a random perk. Now luckily, there's actually 3 ways to earn weapon variants. First, supply drops, but more on those in just a second. Second, weapon crafting. The crafting system is actually a game saver, particularly for those who don't want to spend real-life money on supply drops. You earn something called salvage for doing a variety of things. You can then use your salvage to craft weapon variants. This means that each and every weapon variant should be accessible to everyone eventually. And to me, this extends the game's longevity tenfold. You now have a reason to continue the grind. You need to earn salvage to get the variants, so you'll have an endless amount of grinding to do if you want to unlock all of them. The third way to earn weapon variants is by another great addition to the game called missions. You can select a mission team, which you can change at any time. The commander will give you a variety of challenges to complete. And as you progress through the challenges, you earn a variety of rewards, including calling cards, gun camos, and weapon variants. Now I realize that everyone is disappointed that supply drops have returned, but it's something that everyone is just going to have to get used to. The truth is, no matter how many people argue against microtransactions, the companies don't care. Mark my words, from here on out, they are never going to go away, no matter what anyone tries to do to stop it. Thankfully, Infinity Ward seems to have compromised by giving us a system that lets us earn the variants ourselves, as opposed to something like Black Ops 3. In that game, you had what seemed like a 1 in a million odds chance of getting a weapon from a supply drop. I have over 30 days played for Black Ops 3 and I still don't have all the supply drop weapons. With this variant system in Infinite Warfare, this will not be the case. I much prefer this weapon variant system to the Black Ops 3 or the Advanced Warfare supply drop system. One of the more common complaints for Infinite Warfare is the time to kill. Most people will tell you that it's entirely too fast. But anyone who's ever played an Infinity Ward game before will tell you that this is a common feeling for their games. The time to kill, in fact, is on par with Black Ops 3. It just feels faster. The actual data suggests that they are nearly identical. Infinity Ward games often have really good hit detection compared to Treyarch games, so that in itself has a huge effect on time to kill. Also, as far as I know, the servers used for the Infinite Warfare beta are different than what will be used for the actual game. So if you seem to die too fast, this likely could feel completely different when you play the real game. Another complaint out there are the maps. I just don't understand the community sometimes. When Call of Duty Ghosts came out, people absolutely ridiculed it for having some of the worst maps to date. The main reason they were so disliked was due to their immense size. Matches would often go to the time limit since you couldn't find people. In Infinite Warfare's beta, most of the maps were small. And what have people done? Complained. If they're too big, they complain. If they're too small, they complain. I actually found all the maps to be enjoyable. I think a lot of the hate for the maps comes from a bad performance and overreaction. Case in point, the map Frontier. The first time you play it, much like any map, you're lost. You don't know the spawns, you don't know the best routes, you're basically a newbie booby. And naturally, this leads you to do awful. And now you have a bad taste in your mouth and you instantly hate the map. And that's that. You give it no chance whatsoever. This is an overreaction, and I've been seeing it a lot. I think the main issue here is with playstyle. As with most Infinity Ward games, playstyle can be a huge determining factor as to whether or not you do well. In Black Ops games, you can run around at crackhead pro speed and do incredibly well. If you try that in an Infinity Ward game, you'll likely have a bad time. Now, I'm not telling everyone to camp their dick off, but I'm saying to slow down your gameplay. Be less aggressive, and you'll likely enjoy the maps more as well as improve your score. The maps may be small, but give them a chance. Let them grow on you, and you may find you come to enjoy them. Now, the rig, the payload, and the trait system is also a great addition. I love just how many different combinations we can create, and I really like how we can change our rigs mid-match. The system is very similar to the specialist characters from Black Ops 3. And as such, people who hated specialist weapons in that game will probably hate these even more. However, I found no extremely overpowered weapons here. Even so, if one starts to outclass all the others, I'm sure Infinity Ward won't hesitate to bring it to a level playing field. Visually speaking, the menus and character design have that clean, white, space-age look, which I think feels appropriate. Glancing at some of the rig customization options, the helmets and suits seem to fit the space theme of the game. One thing that irritated me with Black Ops 3 as well as Advanced Warfare were the ridiculous unlockable outfits that were introduced. I feel like these degraded the aesthetics of the game. But regarding graphics, the game is pleasant to look at. There's nice lighting, textures, and reflection mechanics on all the maps I've played. Now when it comes to weapon design and balance, I think Infinity Ward did a great job here. There's no real overpowered weapons in the beta. There were, however, underpowered weapons. It pains me to say this, but I feel the entire shotgun category could use an overhaul, as they were just entirely too weak. The burst assault rifle was also dreadfully weak. Other than that, though, I felt confident picking up any of the other weapons and performing well. One thing to note is that the iron sights on almost all the weapons are incredibly usable. In Black Ops 3, there were some rather horrific iron sights that typically almost mandated you put an optic sight on it. But thus far in the beta, I haven't once felt the need to run an optic attachment, which gives me more flexibility with my Pick-10 system. In regard to the sound and music of Infinite Warfare, I've got differing opinions here. The music is absolutely amazing, and in particular, the menu music. The actual in-game gun sounds seem a bit heavy to me. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's just different. One thing's for sure, hearing footsteps is incredibly difficult. There's so many loud noises going on during a fight that it makes it increasingly hard to sound whore in this game. Now some may view this as a good thing, and others may disagree. I think they'll adjust the footsteps level at least a few times before all is said and done. I should note that this game feels like the most boots on the ground of the 3 futuristic Call of Duties we now have. I'd say that about 90% of the gunfights I had, both my enemies and I were planted on the ground. The maps we've seen don't appear to actively encourage boost jumping at every opportunity either. So now let me rapid fire off a few more of my personal likes about Infinite Warfare. The classic guns. Upon prestiging, you'll be able to unlock these in any order you wish. This is a great addition. Next, no teammate collision at the start of the matches. I can't tell you how many times in Black Ops 3 this aggravated me. Teammate collision is overall much improved in Infinite Warfare. Next, the absolutely blazing fast loading screens. This includes entering and exiting a match. You no longer have to wait an eternity to get back into a lobby. Next, the movement system. The game is slower than Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3, but many people hated the fast movements that those two games brought to the table. Next up, the health bars above players' heads. Some people mentioned that these are useless since you die pretty fast, but these are still a welcome addition to the game. Then there's the gun camos. The camo actually covers the entire gun in this game, which is a positive. Also of note, if you unlock a camo from a mission or a supply drop, you can use it on every single gun in that class. This is different from Black Ops 3, for example. In that game, you got gun camos per gun. So if you got a camo on one gun, you could only use it for that one. Again, I feel this is a welcome change to Infinite Warfare. Then there's the MLG callouts. I haven't seen many people mention this at all yet, but right under the minimap will display a callout location. This is an excellent way to give callouts to your teammates. As already mentioned, there's no indication of supply drops being absolutely needed for weapons. Although, we'll see if they put in additional weapons later as supply drop exclusives. Hopefully this doesn't happen. One more thing about the weapon variants. Since every variant appears to have a positive, or at worst, a neutral weapon perk, there won't be the kinds of pointless variants that we saw in Advanced Warfare. For example, higher hipfire accuracy and lower damage on an LMG. No one would want to use that. Lastly, the dual weapon modalities. Some weapons can toggle into completely different weapons, such as the sniper and assault rifle combo, or the assault rifle to akimbo pistols combo. Now obviously, every Call of Duty game comes with negatives. Let's talk about a few of those as well. I've already mentioned the time to kill as well as the maps. Another huge complaint was about snipers and their quickscoping. I'll openly admit that I didn't get quickscoped anywhere near the amount others are saying they have. Now with that said, it's quite possible to quickscope in this game, and it is a little easy to pull off. But I have no doubt in my mind that they will adjust this as the game progresses. How about the score streaks in Infinite Warfare? This is definitely a gray area. On one hand, you want to be able to cause severe pain and dismemberment to the enemy. On the other hand, you don't want them too powerful so that everyone rage quits instantly. Unfortunately, the score streaks in this game are extremely lackluster for their cost. As an example, the Thor score streak. This is equivalent to the Lodestar from Black Ops 2, more or less, except it's about 10 times worse. You can either shoot all 5 rockets at once and manually guide where they go, or you can shoot one at a time to a set destination. Either way you choose, you likely won't be receiving many kills. I don't know if something is off with this streak, but as you can see, I'm dropping these rockets straight up their ass and no one is dying. I've called this streak in about 15 times and I've never got more than 4 kills. For a score streak that costs 1,300 points, this thing should do much more than it currently does. This is just one example, but several of the streaks in the game were incredibly underwhelming. Another iffy area is the Ghost perk. In Black Ops 3, you had to be actively moving for Ghost to activate. In this game, you just have to have it equipped. I'm not sure how I feel about this change as it stands, but this is how it was in Call of Duty Ghosts as well as in Advanced Warfare, and no one really complained about it in those games. Yes, it does tend to promote corner camping, but this game plays pretty fast paced, so I'm hoping it won't be a huge issue. On the other hand, it's also not fair to punish snipers and LMG users who are more stationary in their gameplay. Not campy, mind you, but stationary. For example, someone hard-scoping an area would have been punished in Black Ops 3, since he wasn't moving and thus wasn't hidden from a UAV. Now, however, he can safely hold down an area with a sniper or LMG without being exposed. Of course, the UAV spam in this game will be very prevalent, so that almost guarantees that the Ghost perk will be a crutch perk. There are a few other good perks in the Tier 1 category, so I'm hoping this will all balance out. Now when it comes to earning salvage for weapon crafting and keys for supply drops, I'm not sure I'm entirely sold on the process yet. As it works now, you only receive salvage through opening supply drops and leveling up your mission team. You do not receive it by just finishing matches. Keys, on the other hand, are earned by finishing matches. I'd like to see salvage also be earned through just playing the game. One other minor issue I had was the preloaded classes showing up before the custom-made classes. I feel like I should have quick access to the classes I've made, rather than have to scroll through 5 classes I'll probably never even try. Next, I wanted to mention one more thing about the weapon variants. So far, I've praised them, but there is a downside to having the freedom to unlock every variant and every variant having positive traits. Once YouTubers determine the best variants, such as the equivalent of Advanced Warfare's Speakeasy or Inferno, they'll become almost universally used since players can unlock them as they collect enough salvage. Then, once the data shows that these variants are being overwhelmingly used, they'll likely end up nerfing them, which will lead to another scramble for the new best variant. It'll be a vicious cycle. In fact, I've already seen some bigger YouTubers proclaiming they know the best weapons from their limited play of the beta. Absolutely ridiculous. Nothing but clickbait Mickey Mouse bull squash. Lastly, one of my biggest pet peeves about Infinite Warfare was the inability to distinguish enemies from teammates. I can't tell you how many times I shot at my own teammates thinking they were enemies. It could be due to most of the character colors appearing similar, but I've never had as many issues in any Call of Duty game as I have in Infinite Warfare. Something needs to be fixed to make teammates more noticeable. And that, as they say, is that. From an experienced Call of Duty player and a vicious admirer of the series itself, this game has a lot going for it. Don't be persuaded by the casual players that are trying to give Infinite Warfare a bad name. The fact of the matter is, Infinite Warfare took elements from Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Call of Duty Ghosts and turned it into a game that is thoroughly enjoyable. The movement system feels very boots on the ground like. There's no blasting off sky high like in Advanced Warfare, but there's enough resemblance to the Black Ops 3 movement system to make it ideal. The classic Infinity Ward time to kill takes a bit of gameplay adjusting to get used to, but once you master the maps and adjust your strategies, you should have no issues enjoying this game. The enthusiasm of the Infinity Ward team for this game only gives me that much more assurance that this game will do great. I have full trust in the team to make any changes necessary prior to the launch of the game, as well as throughout the game's life cycle. They're actively trying to please the community, and it definitely shows. Overall, despite all the negativity surrounding Infinite Warfare, I'm anxiously anticipating playing this game for the entirety of its duration.